Yeah. So hey everybody, Jack Boyles with Steam Engines USA, and I'm coming to you from the heart of North Carolina. I got a really awesome collection of tins here that we're gonna look at today, and may take a little bit of time to go through them. Yeah, Jensen modeled 10 steam engines. And these were, I'm going to jump up here real quick. I'm going to pause it for just a second. They are part of the Tuckerized Productions. So back here at the Jensen number 10s, it's a pretty impressive collection of them. A good friend of mine has put these together. A lot of them he's done work on himself. Some are just as they come. So we're going to start over here at kind of the latest generation. This is a typical 25G. It evolved from all of these. And this is basically your late 80s up until present day, 80s and 90s. It has the aluminum base generator, aluminum base steam engine. If you call up Jensen Steam Engines and you order one of these, they're probably about $450 or so. And this is typical of what you'll get. Going back a few years, maybe 10 or so, back into, what do you say, the 70s? 70s. Yeah, 1970s. This is actually labeled a 10. And as you can see, the newer ones, 25G. So this is what you're going to typically see. It has a cast iron generator. It still has an aluminum engine base. The brick firebox, painted that salmon color. This one has, as you can tell, the newer Jensens have this little round, what am I thinking of? The handle. Yeah, the little handle. Hourglass, that's the word, hourglass handle.
I call them clown dumbbells.
Yeah, clown dumbbells. And so the earlier ones, they were thinner. So lost a little weight, I guess. I don't know. That's a little thinner ones, as you can see between the two there. These are just bigger. So here, this is basically getting into like the 70s, mid 70s. And then we're going back into I guess we'll be hitting on 60s. This is a 10, nameplates mounted sideways. It is a cast iron base. It also has a reversing lever. As you can see here, the bases are pretty much painted to match. The thing that makes this one a little more unique, it makes it pretty much a 1960 model, is it's got a copper firebox. And as you can see, the difference between this one's painted and this one's the copper finish. So it's pretty cool looking.
And it's got in the tube type
And
sight glass.
Yep, and it's got the sight glass tube type style, whereas this one has the round face. So some little differences between the two. A lot of Jensen collectors love this model with the cast iron base. It's getting to be a little bit older. Here we're in 2019, 2020, so this is going back to 1960s. So the transition from this, we're going back in time a little bit further. And the big difference you notice right off is a black firebox. So this 10 is pretty much laid out. You'll notice the flywheels tend to get a little bit thicker the further back you go in time. It is the typical dark blue paint. It also has a tube type sight glass, as you can see right here. And this one's gonna be in what do you say, late 50s?
Yeah, early mid 50s, early to late 50s.
Yeah. Yep, it's got straight handles. The hourglass handles are gone. This is also an indicator of its earlier model. So 50 style, this has a different pop-up valve. It's pretty much just round. And the newer ones are actually brass. I wish they would nickel plate them, but these get a little bit bigger and wider the further back you go as well, and change somewhat. So a good example of 1950s, and then it jumps over to these two. This is still mid to early 50s, only it's rotated on the board. This is 1951. Thank you. The only year that they made this because of this magnet design, and it's a round magnet. The Omega magnet. All right. So if you see one of these, it's a rare bird, 1951, and that's the giveaway. Now, not to be confused with this round magnet on one of the newer generators, late 80s type generators, or I guess 60s, 70s, however they fall in line there. This is a one-piece round magnet generator. So that's the dead giveaway. If you see that one piece, solid piece, that's a 1951. It as well has a similar firebox, handles, pop-up valve. If you notice, a lot of these, the face on the sight glass, some will have a little bar going across, a little metal strip. Some will actually have little tubes, little brass wire that protect it. But this one's just a little bit different than that one. So it's got the little metal strip going across it. So then we come to this. This is a 1950. Is this a 50?
49.
49. Okay, so this one's a 1949. Very nice condition. It's a very nice example of a 1949. Everything's still all original. So you take that off, and let's see if I can lift this up. And typically, like you notice on a lot of Jensens, underneath the wood, you can kind of see on here, he just did not use a whole lot of the varnish on them. So this one is what you notice mostly that jumps out at you is the label. It's a brass tag. Some people refer to it as a gold label, but it's just brass. It's a brass tag, number 10. It also has the UL sticker. And back when these were made, they didn't have the extra ground wire on the plug. So it's just a positive and a negative. So they changed up the plugs to comply with the federal standards. So they had to, they'll have that UL rating on them. So really nice little steam engine here. Very smooth. Again, it's got the flat handles. If you notice down here, the linkage is a square type linkage. And the older we go back, you'll notice that the linkage will change. So then we're gonna go from the 49 to over here 48. So this one here is pretty much as you see it, is the way it came. You'll see a lot of engines like this. They're pretty much a really nice example of a clean 1948 Jensen Model 10. The paint, we're still got a red horseshoe generator. It's got the little cloth type copper wrapping for the magnet. Those will change. You'll see some have a cloth covering, like this one does not. You'll notice some differences as you go further back in time. Also has the red handles, some wider pop-up valve. This one's a lot bigger, thicker. It has the wire on the front for the sight glass. So raised up on me. Let me slide it back down in there. So this was during the war too. This also dates it during the war when you see them with the little round, the tube protectors for the sight glass, the wire protector. All right, so then that takes us to this one. This is one that my friend Randy restored. He did a complete restore on it. He's got pictures of it posted, and I've actually posted, I think, some pictures of it, but it was in really bad shape. And this, he completely sandblasted all of the firebox, the cast iron base, everything, disassembled it completely, got everything basically powder coated, painted. The boiler was sent off and got it completely nickel plated. The smokestack as well got a air specific cord. So this is a really nice example of a completely restored Jensen Model 10 from the early, I guess it'd be late 40s. This is somewhere around, what, 47-ish?
45, 46, somewhere around
Yeah.
there, yeah.
Maybe 45 as well. Because, too, the label, this is also a painted on, it's a decal label. Some are painted, some are decals. But that changed from these brass tags. So whenever you notice one that's got the painted on decal label, that also indicates it's earlier, mid 40s. So very nice example there. Then we're going to the next one. You notice some changes here. The paint on the base, we went from the dark paint to the light paint. This one has a lamp post on the base. And that's indicative of some of the earlier power plants, where this one over here, you notice the light post is on the cast iron base. Here it's mounted on the board. These are a lot more harder to find, rare to come by, very sought after, and just a really nice example of an early 40s number 10. This one's Randy's gonna be restoring it. It's got missing the little thing on the sight glass, but he's already got all the parts and stuff for that. So just a really nice example. The handles, you notice, are black. The flywheels painted inside light blue. The linkage systems are still square. However, this rod, if you notice, it's round. You come over here and it's flat. So it's starting to see some subtle changes in the linkages. And we still have the lugs, screw down lugs on the cast iron base during this time. So just a really nice engine. Then we're jumping to, this one's gonna probably be, you're pushing into late 30s.
Early 40s.
Yeah, early 40s. These are getting, an engine like this is getting really hard to come by just because there's not that many. This one is pretty much original. It's a really clean engine. If you notice, it's got a generator out here. The commentators are outside on the edge here, built into the line shaft basically. It has round linkages. It is jumped to a big 4-screw cylinder. If you notice, this one over here was the smaller, just 10 size, regular size, I guess we would say. This is now a 4-screw. It's a larger cylinder. It is a shorter firebox. I don't know if you can see this, but I'll try to show the two side by side. This is a typical 6-inch boiler, and this one is 5. This firebox is shorter, squattier. So that's kind of a giveaway as well.
That one uses the porcelain rod heater, not the billet heater.
Yes. And this one, the small firebox one, the heating elements changed. So on this one here, You can tell when you see these screws on the firebox, that indicates there's a belly heater that is actually cupping the bottom of the boiler. This did not have those. This would have had either a ceramic tray or ceramic heater sitting on a tray inside of here. And then as we go to the others, they actually have a tube type heating element that actually slides into the boiler. So this one, there's your big fat pop-up valve, which is typical of the older Jensens. So just a really nice example there. Over here, we're jumping forward. It's still pretty much the same. You can see the size of the fireboxes, the boiler, everything is pretty similar. The biggest difference that you notice right off is the linkage. See how this is all square cut, and over here it's all round. So that tells us that this is earlier than this one, maybe by a year or two. Pretty much the same cast iron base. A lot of similarities. That's really the main difference on that one. I'm not sure if this one has a ceramic heater or if it's heated with a tube. It is tube. So this one, ceramic heater, and this one here has a tube type heater that would slide into the back. So then we jump. Yep, and a black stack on the firebox. So that one's black. These are chrome, nickel plated. So pretty awesome little engine there. Randy's planning to restore this one as well, and it'll look just like that one, as nice as that one when he's done. So then we jump to this one. This is actually, it's a big power plant. If you notice the cylinder, it's got the 20 cylinder. See how big that thing is? If you can tell between the two, it's a much bigger cylinder. The steam chest is consistent with this one. It's about the same, but the flywheel is bigger. It has the DC, it's a AC/DC generator, and this is the cast iron base is actually notched out for this. So if you notice on this one, it's straight and flush, and here it's notched out. So that tells you, that puts this engine, even though this is a newer firebox on here, the boiler and the firebox is newer, we're still trying to figure out if that was sent back to Jensen manufacturing and if they changed it out, because these boilers would melt sometimes. These older boilers would break down, and you could send it in and they would put a new boiler on there for you. You could kind of upgrade it. So with this small little handle on the whistle, all this is kind of period correct for the 70s basically. So it could be somebody sent this back to Jensen in the 70s to have that done. However, this engine is late 30s. So you've got the original steam line, big power plant cylinder, all of the connecting rods, everything is round. Steam chest, the ports, I mean, it's just an awesome engine. The only thing that dates it or a little bit later are the screw down, the lugs on the cast iron base stick out. Earlier ones just screw right through the base, so those are not there on the early ones. So just a really nice engine. It has a really huge flywheel as well. So if you could tell the difference between those two flywheels, I mean, it's almost twice as big. It's pretty significant. And here you can see screws through the base where this has lugs. So next we're coming up to probably I would say one of the oldest tins that I know even exists. I got a few buddies that's got some old number 10s, but this was probably the oldest one out there. So it is riveted boiler, big firebox. It's got the big, huge steam chest. Look at that thing. if you could tell between this steam chest, see how thick that is, and then you go back a few years to say this one that Randy restored, see how thin that is, right? So you've got, and even here, the late 40s, so this little steam chest on that 4-cylinder. So here, you got this massive steam chest. We all pretty much believe Mr. Jensen, Tom Jensen Sr. was trying to figure out how to create this using less material, but back then it was a big old block of brass, basically. So, very nice engine, all around connecting rods, the things that I've already mentioned before. You got the lamp post on the base, just a massive flywheel generator, little notched out area for.
That means it's a DC generator.
Yeah, so this is DC generator. These right here, DC generators. So I think I'm covering it all. I'm kind of rambling now, but it's pretty awesome. You got pop-up valve here, cylinder smokestack. Just a really nice power plant there. I mean, they don't really get much nicer. So really incredible collection here. This engine we put on the table, this is the one, if you guys remember, the number 20 Deluxe. Even though it's not a 10, it's kind of right there with them. So yeah, same design. Randy did all the work on this for me. If you remember, it was bent up, this was broken, the lamp post was missing, and it was in much worse shape than what you see now. So he's done a fantastic job on really just cleaning this thing up and trying to put it back like it was. The 20, the things that really stand out on it is you got the firebox has holes in it. There's a lot of talk about whether this was one that Jensen was going to use for full dry fuel trays, and then went away from it because of the fire hazard. But it does have that the holes in the firebox. He had a label over here on this side. That's one of the reasons why we chose not to restore it completely. This riveted boiler, the interesting thing about it, I don't think you can see it, but it's wrapped. It's just sheet metal that was rolled up, and it's got a Chromolux heater inside of it. On the front, there's a drain valve, which you see on like the big power plants. The throttle line, like you can see on this one, it's got an inline throttle valve. Over here, he actually built it into the base of the line right above the steam chest. So there's your throttle line for it, which is a little bit different. Still has those early round connecting rods. This has a disc style, basically the shaft, the drive shaft has got this, crankshaft, thank you. Crankshaft's got the disc style. So here it's a disc on this one as well. And then here it's squared off. And then if we go, I guess back to like this late 1951, you can see how small it is now. So went from this big old disc to that. So this goes back kind of when it first began. Everybody's pretty much dated this engine to be maybe 1932s. It's the 20 Big Deluxe Power Plant. Yep, and it's a D valve cylinder, slide valve. So this big steam chest, if you notice, it's got the 4 bolts on the side. It actually has a slide D valve inside of it, which is pretty much the only one that we've ever seen complete. I know Gill's got this part with the slide D valve and a big large boiler that's cut, the board's cut, and it's kind of been, we don't really know exactly the history on it, but this one, this is just like the brochure shows. It's a 20 Deluxe Big Power Plant from 1932, slide D valve, and all the features that I've showed so far and talked about. So just a pretty awesome engine. So there you have it. Just a huge collection of Jensen Model 10s. Randy's goal is to try to get one of every type that Mr. Jensen built, and he's well on his way. I think there's only a couple. He's actually got one coming that's I believe it says 1950, that'll kind of date between these two. So just a really nice collection of Jensen Model 10s, and I'm honored to be able to share this video with you guys today and let you kind of walk through history and get to see up close some of the differences between all these models. And I'm sure I've left out some details. Somebody is on there right now on the video saying, yeah, but what about this? So yeah, there's a lot of differences between these engines, even though a lot of them look the same. So from the heart of North Carolina, Steam Engines USA, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. So we got one big shot of all of those, and there you have it. So take care.